Now I will be going through the two main settlement systems which are relevant to our topic and relevant to all treasury transactions, local treasury transactions, mainly the fund transfers and the government security settlements, right? So I will first go through RTGS settlement system. We call it real-time gross settlement. Real-time gross settlement. So that is how it is called RTGS. Actually, this is a generic name, real-time gross settlement. We don't have a specific name for this system in Sri Lanka, so we call it RTGS, right? So now in this system, the transactions are settled real time. Now this system we use for what purpose? We use for fund transfers between the participants of this system, as well as actually the participants of this system. Now when I say participants, you get banks, primary dealers, and some other designated participants in this system. So they are actually in one group who can use real-time gross settlement system, that is RTGS, right? So all these participants need to have an account with central bank. So now sometimes we call, now those days we call it our our reserve account, but some people call it RTGS account, right? But that is the account where you maintain your balances in other than the the investments and other things. Your fund position is reflected there, right? So which can be used for everyday transactions. So now for the banks, of course, there are certain restrictions, rather there are certain directions that we need to maintain certain amount of money in the RTGS account. That is a reserve requirement. So all the payments you do through this system will go through your account in the central bank, right? So it is like some customer maintaining a current account with a bank, right? Like customer maintaining a current account with bank. Now so the settling the gross amount, what does this mean? Now these transactions will go individually. Like say if we generate a transaction now, say say I want to make a payment, say some bank, say commercial bank wants to make a payment to Hat National Bank, so they will do RTGS transfer. So and that transfer is that transfer will be effected with that amount only. That is now there won't be, like say if we send 10 transactions, so all these 10 transactions will be reflected in the account. It is not a net figure, or it is not a total figure that will get debited to your account. Individually all the transactions will be shown in your account, and that is why we said for the gross amount there is no netting involvement in this system, RTGS system. There is no netting involvement, so it is for the gross amount. So but only thing, this system is comparatively bit has bit higher transaction cost. Now when I say higher, in fact now it's very low. Now when we started in 2004, 2003, it was the central bank, I think, had charged us 600 per each transaction, and various banks had the various charges. That is that central bank charge, that system charge, plus another margin for the the overheads the banks used to keep. So then some banks charge 1,000 rupees, some 2,000, some 1,500, like that. At the initial stages, that was the the cost. So when I say now, if it was 1,000 rupees in 2004, it was a bit high amount actually, bit high amount for a fund transfer, because slips were actually 25 rupees slips transaction. So with the bank charges, it will be mostly 100 rupees. So comparatively, this is a high transaction cost. And we'll move on to the next slide. Now, I would like now, since most of you all didn't see the prior to RTGS era, I will go through that as well for to understand, for a better understanding of what happened earlier. Like now, actually, we are living in the sense now in the viewpoint of settling transactions. We have a very comfortable infrastructure uh, infrastructure which will settle these transactions instantly, and give a lot of reports for you all to reconcile, for us to reconcile, and you can see the transaction settlement real time. So a lot of things are there to comfort our life in this aspect of settling transactions, the fund transactions, as well as we will be discussing these security transactions. So in that sense, we are living in a very comfortable world. But prior to RTGS, it was bit of a very very strenuous process, I would say, because if you want to do a fund transfer, a bank has to draw a check, right? Now, I said that we have central bank. We maintain accounts with central bank. Now this account doesn't carry a checkbook, right? Or they don't issue checkbooks for these accounts. Now, but earlier, prior to 2003, there was a checkbook for this account. So if one bank wants to make a payment to another bank, right, that bank will draw a check in favor of the pay bank, right? Say Sampath Bank wants to make a payment to commercial bank, Sampath Bank will, we will say it's a call money. So the Sampath Bank will draw a check for that amount and send someone to the central bank and deposit this check in the account of commercial bank's account, right? The receiving bank's account, right? So that is before 2:30 you have to do it, before 2:30 p.m. So by around, say, maybe around 1:30, it was the banks were really busy. The treasury back officers were really busy in preparing this. So if you have 10 transactions for 10 bank, sorry, if you have 50 transactions for, maybe we'll say 15 banks or 12 banks. So those 50 transactions, you have to write, if it is for 12 banks or 10 banks, you have to write 10 checks, and this 50 will have 50 will go into will have fund flows to different 10 banks. So some will have 7 payments, some will have 10, some will have 3, like that. So we used to add, say, if one bank is going to receive, or rather if we want to do 3 transactions to a single bank, then you have to calculate, you have to add, then write a single check. If you make a mistake, then you have to do another one. But before 2:30 you have to do it. Before 2:30. Now the cutoff time is what? It's not 2:30. Now even till 4:30 sometimes we can do transfers, right? There are cutoff times for customer transactions as well as individual transactions, but till the system is open, right? You can do the transactions. But those days 2:30 p.m. So when we do, sometimes these messenger comes, he's so used to the system, he takes the check and sometimes he goes. So he used to go, right? So what happened, sometimes without signatures he had taken the check, so we have to send officers to the central bank to sign the checks, because otherwise there's no time for us to bring the check back and redeposit it. So likewise, it was bit busy situation, this fund transfers, and you have to, now apart from this, you have to do another SWIFT message to inform the other bank. So we will go through a bit into this area prior to RTGS before we discuss the present situation. So now this is, I have just scanned a check and put it for your this thing interest. You can see this is the central bank check issued on a bank, right? Issued on a bank account, right? So this was prior to 2003. We, like a normal customer, we used to write checks when we want to make a payment to another bank. So this is a specimen of a check, right? And now, what are these payments from one bank to another? There can be other payments. I mean, I'm taking a bank because then it's easy to understand. But there can be a bank to primary dealer, right? A payment from a bank to a primary dealer, payment from bank to another designated person. I mean, appointed institution. So whatever it is, there are certain, like I have listed some main payment types to another bank. Call or term money lending, you know about this call or term money lending, and repayment of borrowing. Same thing, if you want to lend, right? Okay, if you have a borrowing, repayment of borrowing is another payment. Customer to customer fund transfers. These are actually customers instruct the bank to do a fund transfer to a customer in another bank, right? In another bank. So these type of transfers, in fact, these type of transfers can be done through slips also. But at that time, if I can remember, the slips limit was around, I think it was around 2.5 million or below that, right? 2.5 million or below. So I really can't remember, but it was very low amount. But say suppose if you want to do a 10 million transfer, then you have to go for this bank to bank transfer. That is, they say they used to call this conveniently central bank transfers. That is why, because it's going through central bank. But these are actually the bank to bank transfers, to fulfill different requirements of this banking business. So one is call money, term lending, call or term lending, repayment of borrowings, customer to customer fund transfer. As I explained, a customer of a bank wants to do a fund transfer for another customer in another bank. So that also will affected through our central bank account. And settlement of government securities. Right now here I have mentioned funds, because when you buy government securities, the funds can be settled through these payment systems, right? There are other ways of doing it. We will be discussing it in a while, but you can make the payment you can make the payment through a payment system, and securities can be transferred separately. Now those days, of course, securities were physically transferred, right? Physically transferred. So now, of course, we have different, electronic method of transferring, but those days physically transfer. So when you transfer money, you transfer securities physically, and you use a payment system, the central bank through via central bank payment system to do the fund transfer. So that is how these government securities were settled, right? And reverse repo transactions and repo maturities. Reverse repo transactions, you give money, and repo maturities also you have to give back money, right? This we discussed yesterday. And debt securities transactions. Debt securities are like, trust receipts, commercial paper kind of instruments. So for the payment or for the repayment, right, you have to use this payment and settlement systems, right? So now I have just put a slide to explain payment from one bank to another prior to RTGS, how it was affected. So here I think it's clear now. Bank A and Bank B are there, right? So what happens? Bank A deposits a check in Bank B account. So Bank A wants to send send fund transfer to a Bank B, right? Call money lending. So they exchange MT320 Swift message. This Swift message is a confirmation message. So it goes through Swift. That Swift messaging was available, but this prior to RTGS, as I explained earlier, Bank A will deposit a check to Bank B's account with central bank. So we actually, now when I say Bank B's account, how do we do it? Now there was a check deposit slip given by the central bank. So we used to write the other bank's name, and their account number was known to us. So we write the account number, and then we send a person to central bank, and they accept and they put this in the B bank's account, right? So only thing, what is the disadvantage? This is a fully manual system. There can be errors, and also now you have many transactions for a day. So, and ultimately at the end of the day, you don't know whether your calculation, your reconciliation of your account is, whether it is tallying with the central bank's actual account. Why? You don't know whether for some reason whether these funds were not deposited, or Bank B will not know until the next day morning that whether the Bank A has deposited money to their account. So that disadvantage was there. So when they deposit money, the central bank will move funds from Bank A's account to Bank B's account. So that funds movement will be done by central bank. Central bank, that is also a manual, I think, manual fund transfer they will do. They will post a debit to central bank account of Bank A and post a credit to central bank account of Bank B. So this was just an example prior to RTGS, how a call money lending was settled, right? How lending was settled is something like this. A, B is there, right? Okay, we will go to the next slide. Customer to customer fund transfers. As I explained, a customer of a bank A transfers funds to a customer of a bank B. So now this is again, Bank A and Bank B. So Bank A will send MT103 now. Actually, I think 2004, prior to 2003 November, it was MT100. So MT100, right? So bank A deposits a check again to bank B's account. So the fund transfer will happen, now like the earlier case. Only difference is the details of this fund transfer. Now bank A has to provide details to bank B. What are the details? The credit ordering customer details are there, that is who is sending money, and the recipient details are there, beneficiary customer details also are there. So that, of course, we use MT100 or later on 103 to convey those details to bank B. So that was a Swift message. Anyway, that was a Swift message. Today also we use Swift messages, but we use Swift messages in a very large scope in settling transaction than those days. So this message will just go, and the bank B will get to know, okay, these are the details of the money, or rather these are the beneficiary details of the money we received in our account, right? So they credit, actually they credit on the same day, right? They give the credit on the same day, but unknowingly, I mean, it's a bank-to-bank deal, no? So it's a bank-to-bank transfer. Because of that, prior to this, they will inform the bank B. Bank A will inform the bank B that this type of a transfer is coming and we are crediting your account by this amount. So they know. So because they know, they will give the credit to the customer. They will give good value to the customer, in the sense the same way they value. But the next day morning only they will get to know whether these checks have been realized into their account, right? Because this is a manual process. There's no confirmation for them to say that the manual process has taken place without any interruption or any any error, right? So this is a one transfer. So we will go through another one. Government security settlement. Before, these are prior to RTGS, right? I'm talking because I just want to give you some insight into this. Then you know the history and also what we do in present. So it will be beneficial for you all when they do different system implementations in future. I think they are trying to do multi-party or some settlement system. I really can't remember the name they use, but then there will be, different. There will be differences in, the processes and procedures now we do. So confirmations, the settlement of government securities. Bank A buys treasury bills or bonds from Bank B, right? Bank B sells. So confirmations will be exchanged. So the confirmations can be now, of course, we use some mostly Swift confirmations, but those days those were the letters only, right? We send a confirmation letter, and Bank A gives a letter to Bank B, and Bank B also gives a letter to Bank A. So actually with identical information in both confirmations, right? So same way for the funds, Bank A will deposit funds to Bank B's central bank account. So that is, the fund settlement is settlement is similar to earlier two occasions, right? So we have faced with a lot of issues with the manual system, but I have mentioned few. I mean, I put few very very important ones here, or rather the issues which had which had more impact on our day-to-day operation. So, and this actually was a reason for inefficient settlement system. This was because manually handled, so many things were handled manually, and there was a limit for the manual volumes, right? So prior to RTGS, this was the situation, and we will go through one by one and see whether we can understand. Then we know now, if when we understand this, we know what is the benefit of RTGS? So highly exposed to errors due to manual intervention. That is, all parties involved in, because everything was manual except for the SWIFT we sent informing the details to the other person. And inefficient operation. Now errors is one thing, but inefficient operation is the operation was very slow because everything has to be done by human intervention, right? By human intervention, and the checks were transported to central bank, right? And that is also humanly taken, right? So, or rather, a person will go to the central bank and deposit. So a lot of human intervention has created a lot of inefficiency in the operation and costly to handle high transaction volumes. As I said, there's a limit for all these transaction volumes, and if you want to handle more and more, then you have to recruit more and more staff, because you need more resources. And the other thing is, now it's not like day-to-day thing which you can postpone for tomorrow. There are cutoff times which you need to adhere to. Otherwise, central bank won't accept. Like if you don't deposit at 2:30, they will say no, we can't accept it today. So the entire transaction will get you have to speak to the counterparty and get it cancelled, or you have to pay interest on that, or something will cost will get added on to the already having high cost, right? So record maintenance and retrieving was really difficult, right? Record maintenance, because all were manual, and manual transactions were not entered anywhere, right? There were, but then not really, like the checkbook register you have to maintain, and those are manual, and sometimes the handwriting is not clear, like that. It was very difficult to retrieve the records later on if you want. For some reason, there are reasons that we need to get the history of these transactions, like the for court orders and various inquiries, like that. So, and early cutoff time is 2:30, 2:30, and although it's 2:30, the customers will have to decide early in the morning whether they want to do the transaction or not, because 2:30 cutoff time is with the central bank, but individually banks had different cutoff times. Different cutoff times for acceptance of RTGS, acceptance of these transfers. So usually by about 9:30, 10, all the dealers will agree on what are the all the dealers, in the sense all the dealers in the system, right? Maybe A, B, C, D, like banks. So many banks are there now operating in this system. So they will agree upon the inflows and outflows of transactions for that day. So thereafter, it is very difficult for a customer to do a transaction, because we have already squared off our money positions most of the time with regard to RTGS. There can be other transactions as well, but then what happens? Although we say it's it's a central bank transfer, same day effective, in fact customers will have to decide a day prior or on the same day early morning. So early cutoff times were one of the reasons for reasons for this system to operate very inefficiently. So this summarize of that. Payments from one bank to another prior to RTGS, sending MT-103 or MT-100 before 15/11/2003. Credit customers with inward remittances, right? Check the CBSL account the following day. These are the things that we had to do, right? banks had to do the responsibilities. Send MT-103, credit the customers with the remittances, check the CBSL account the following day. The following day only you will be reconciling. If security is to be delivered, endorse and deliver to the buyer physically, right? Endorse. There was a there was a space provided for that purpose. So you sign there, you write the name of the new owner, new holder, and you sign there with the bank seal, right? So endorse and deliver. So physically you have to send someone. So these were the responsibilities of the institutions. The back officers actually were doing this. If you say responsibilities of back office, it's more relevant. And receive securities physically, check them and balance them, lodge under dual control. So a lot of resources are wasted on this, but this was the system, like reconcile the CBSL balance, like, so reconciliation will be done only the next day, right? Inform central bank of authorized signatories. Every time you have to inform. Now also we inform, but it's for the passwords. But those days the signatories for the check signing, right? For the check signing, we had to, now if a new staff comes in, then you have to include the signature like that. It was not very easy. Now, introduction of RTGS. Now, this is a turning point in Sri Lankan payment system, right? Payment and settlement systems. So, I mean, now we were, although it was in 2003, we were one of the first few countries to introduce this, right? Sri Lanka is the first country in the South Asian region to implement RTGS. So we are ahead of now, because central bank was very keen on these payment and settlement systems, because this is a key factor. Timely settlement, timely settlement of funds, and also maybe the securities are a key factor in developing a market, right? So you can't develop a market with with a lot of delays in the settlement process. So one issue is, when there are delays, the investors will get discouraged, right, to come to the market, because they will get fed up of the delays. And the other thing is, it will take a long time for one transaction to get settled. So with that money, there won't be much time, or there won't be any time for the receiving party to do another transaction on the same day. So very inefficient market was there prior to RTGS. But the market activities were there, but the operation was very inefficient. So they introduced RTGS system on 8 September 2003. That is 18 years ago, right? Sri Lanka is the first country in the South Asian region to implement the RTGS and SSSS. SSSS is Scriptless Security Settlement System. That is a few months later it came, 3rd February 2004. So all commercial banks and primary dealers are the participants of RTGS. And there can be other designated people also who maintains accounts with central bank, who are in RTGS group, right? Settlement is real time, settle for the gross amount. Now we actually discussed this earlier as well. So eligibility is licensed commercial banks, licensed specialized bank, primary dealers. Parties appointed, like I said earlier, parties appointed as direct participants under Registered Stock and Securities Ordinance and the Local Treasury Bill Ordinance. So there are some institutions who can, who are not banks, who are not commercial banks or specialized bank, but who can be a part of RTGS system, right? So requirements to become, like, you need to have access to SWIFT. If you don't have, but in Sri Lankan market, or most of the banks have SWIFT. Almost all the banks, right? All the banks have SWIFT, right? Mr. Ratnayake will, vouch for that, because he was, I think, heading this SWIFT alliance. I think sometime until very recent. So, but since we have SWIFT here with all banks, we are not familiar with a bank which doesn't have access to SWIFT. But there are some banks. I came across one bank which didn't have SWIFT at that time. Some remote bank in some country. I can't remember the country, but they didn't have SWIFT. So access to SWIFT now is a requirement in this RTGS, as well as in certain other transactions also. Mostly the international transactions take place via SWIFT. I mean, the settlement will take place via SWIFT. And access to CBSL net, anyway, the central bank will provide access to their network. Institutions should have systems and procedures for risk management. Now, these are actually the internal things that we need to look into. So risk management and secure systems for disaster recovery and business continuity. Now, when you have a system-driven operation, you need to have a DR site, right? Otherwise, also you can, but there can be different situations. Now, different situations, I mean, more frequent situations where you need to use the DR site. Right, manual system, of course, you can take all the books and go to another place quickly and start business, right? But when there are electronic systems, you need to have the same set of equipments in another location, and you have to make sure that you can establish a connection with the relevant servers in central bank, right? So we are having actually at Borel, most of the banks are having at different places. Most of the banks are having them a bit away from Colombo. Now the trend is that, like, to have a disaster recovery center a bit away from Colombo, because if you can't if you don't have access to Colombo, then you can go to that location and start doing your business, and should have valid legal status, agree to the system rules. So those are actually the agreements and other things that you have to sign with the central bank. And now, competency of operational staff. So now, when I say competency, now I think you have gone through this code of conduct for money brokers last week. No, I think there was I also actually was a participant in that. Those are now, I think they have explained about how the operation should be carried out, right? So likewise, for the banks also, they have and other institutions like primary dealers, licensed bank, and commercial banks, or sorry, the specialized banks and commercial banks, and any other person who can transact in this system. They have mentioned, not only for RTGS, for the treasury operation, they have to acquire these staff members who are working in these areas have to acquire uh, certain qualifications. Those are mentioned. They are in the regulations, that is ACI, CBSL certificate, or diploma course for treasury management. So those that is what it's meant by competency, the required qualifications, and you have to sign a code of conduct. So that aspects we need to fulfill, right? But those are internal things that we need to fulfill. Otherwise the regulator will point out that you have violated the direction, right? So so these are the requirements for to go into RTGS. Now since we have all these, now we don't see any importance of this, but these were at the initial stages, these were discussed what we should have. Now in other countries also you get RTGS systems. As I said, the RTGS is the generic name, so we don't have a specific name given for our RTGS system. Now USA they call it Fedwire, right? And in UK they call it CHAPS. So when you say Fedwire, then it's the USA RTGS system. CHAPS in UK is the UK RTGS system, right? So RTGS main features are, we discussed some features earlier, but now you can, I'm going into a little deeper in this area. Operated through Swift and CBSL browser. Now you know what is CBSL browser. No? CBSL browser is a computer connected to the central bank, given to all participants. So the participants can, they have given passwords for that. So the participants can log into the central bank account and see the transactions only to their own account, right? They can't log into any other person's account. But we can, like, say, now since I'm at Ceylon, so we can log into our account and see what are the daily transactions took place in this account. So time to time, online, real time, you can log into the browser. So that is called CBSL browser. Browser is a computer connected to the central bank system via a dedicated lease line. This is, we are not, the browser is not through the internet. Actually, normal internet line which we are having, they have a dedicated line, lease line, from the institution to the central bank. So if you are having a DR site, right? If you are having a DR site, then if you have if you are having a DR site, so you have to have another lease line to the DR site as well, and set up that for the operation, right? So the CBSL balance can be checked online. I mentioned this earlier. If funds are not available, the payments will be queued without notifying the receiver. Now, what is this? Now, this can be, now we'll discuss the last point as well. This can be combined with the securities transfer as well. But now RTGS can be combined in the sense it's a separate message type, right? So that will be, so these RTGS system and these scriptless security systems are interlinked, right? Interlinked. That is, now with the security message we use, the RTGS account can be debited or credited, right? So credited, I will come to that later on. So now now for the fourth point, if funds are not available, the payment will be queued without notifying the receiver. What is this? Now here in this Swift message, we use a system called Swift FinY copy system. So now what happens is, we'll go, I think I have a, now this is how it happens. Now bank A has access. Now this is, if you concentrate on this has what I have already said, right? So bank A and bank B are there in the, this is the central bank, this is the central bank system. Now this purple background is the central bank account of bank A, bank B, and there can be other banks as well, right? So this is the central bank one, and bank A has a CBSL browser and Swift. Bank B also has a CBSL browser and Swift, right? So now we will be sending 103 message, right? 103 message, and it will go to the central bank, right? Now when we say 103, the 103 will first go to central bank, right? That is why now this is a shape of a Y, no? Now it go to central bank, and in that system there will be another message created, right? This is a bit technical, don't worry about it. So that will go to the central bank system and see whether whether bank A has money to debit, right? If money is available, right? If money is available, then what will happen? It will debit. Now from this message, it will debit bank A and credit bank B, right? Once this credit is gone in to bank B's account, this system will generate another message, and another 103 message will go to the bank B. So now in between there will be two other messages, 96 and 97, that we don't see. So bank B will get B will get 103, right? 103 message with the details, and at the same time bank A's account will get debited for that particular amount and credited the bank B's account. So now you see, now if bank A doesn't have money in the account, the bank B will not get to know about it, right? It will not get to know, because it will just keep there until bank A provides money to their account. So bank B can't say, bank B will not see that they don't have. They will call bank A and say, okay, you send the message, right? So usually the banks will not face that situation, because they have always have funds in the account for the reserve maintenance, no? So during the day you can use that as well, right? But at the end of the day you have to make sure that you bring it up to that amount, right? Otherwise there will be a penalty. So we use Fin Ycopy service. Right now, prior to RTGS also, listen carefully, prior to RTGS also, we were sending MT103, but those MT103 went straight from A to B, right? There was no intermediary. How can we now say, when we send MT103 to bank B, that it goes to central bank and comes out as another message and goes to the bank B? How does it happen? Because this is, now all these participants are in a group called LKB. So then if you put there are certain formatting in that MT103 message, but there's a place where you have to mention that the group. So when you mention LKB, it will, when you send the Swift, it will get captured by the system. There are certain other settings also, like the Swift code and all that to capture here. So it will get captured here, and then straight go to the recipient bank after the account transfer has completed, right? After it is completed, only the message will go back. I mean, the message will be received by bank B. So this is the processing RTGS, right? So I discuss why you need to send RTGS. So the need arises here, right? And then they do RTGS. So now when the bank A's account get debited, he can see through his CBSL browser, right? So bank B knows, okay, we have received money. So sometimes money received, but if they haven't got the Swift, so they have to check for the Swift. There can be errors in their printer or something can happen. So practically these things happen. So they have received money, so they will check the Swift and then they will process this payment, right? Now of course we have systems linked to this Swift, or other interface to this Swift, to capture this from the Swift, and do the customer crediting as well. I'm talking about the recipient bank, bank A, right? Sorry, bank B. So bank B is the receiver of this money, no? So bank B should have a system to capture this RTGS message, right, in their system, and then process it and credit their customer. So otherwise what happens is they have to look at this Swift message, which has all the details of the incoming money, right? All the details of the incoming money means they will know who has remitted money, right? And and from which bank they have got money, and also the beneficiary details. And now in fact you need to give the reason for the transfer as well. Now what is the sector, and why do you need to do the transfer? What is your business category, right? Finance, agriculture, or what? Why it is so? So then the bank B, the recipient bank, will be scrutinizing this payment, right? And actually they will scrutinize this payment for money laundering and terrorist financing, right? And because and all the transactions above 1 million should be reported to FIU in CBSL, right? So that process is an internal process which will cover the regulation, right? Which will cover the regulators' directions. So once this is done, the customer here at B Bank will get the money, right? Give me a minute. So I hope that you clearly understood this, how this RTGS payment process, because this is actually important to understand this area, because then you know how it will happen. Now there can be sometimes requests coming from customers to do transfers at after the cutoff times or very close to the cutoff time. So then sometimes we won't be able to accept those requests. Sometimes customers will send money to do various investments. So then we need to credit the customer accounts on time. The purpose of the RTGS is actually, now it's a real-time payment system which you have the opportunity of using this money on the same day, right? So maybe we will say like 10 o'clock in the morning, if this transfer happens from bank A to bank B, what happens? So bank B customer, early in the morning he gets money, right? So he can use this money for to generate the income. So he can investment, of course he can do, right? But do, even if you receive it in midday or little later. But now if he wants to if he wants to get into another transaction, there can be so many types of transaction. A customer needs money early in the morning, right? So likewise the central bank expects us to have this system very very efficiently, right? And credit the customers on time when we receive money, we have to give the customers on time. And also now the charges have come down drastically. Now central bank is charging 200 rupees per transaction. So the banks can give at a very low price. The service can be provided at a very low price. That is now usually most of the banks charge around say 400 to 500 rupees, right? So they keep 200 rupees for their expenses, because this process has certain attract certain resources as well, no? So to make this popular and to give the benefit to all types of customers, investors, the central bank has reduced the rate to 200 rupees, right? It was, I think, at the introduction, it was 600. Now it is 200, and the banks also can, give the benefit to the customer by reducing their rates. Mostly banks charge around 400 rupees, right? There can be exceptions. I don't say that all the banks charge a very low rate, but there can be exceptions. But the expectation of the regulator is to bring down the charges to give the benefit of this system to most of the business and other people who are making fund transfers every day, right? So we will go to the next slide. If you have any question, please ask, right? We can have a discussion. So FinMyCopy facility, I have already explained. So this is actually, I have taken this from CBSL site. How this is how they have explained this. So it will go to the receiving institution. The message will go to the receiving institution after going to the central institution. That is, it goes central and then comes back and then go to receiving. So here what will happen is inside the central institution. Now in our case it's a central bank. So inside that what will happen? Inside that there will be a debit and a credit. Sending institutions account will get debited and receiving institutions account will get credited, right? So that settlement process is highly efficient than the earlier manual system, no? So then and there online, or rather real time, you can see it, right? So then you know that you have received funds, and real time you can credit your customers if you have facilities to do that. Otherwise, you can, if it is a manual posting, there will be a little delay on that, but then still for all, it's much better than the earlier manual system, right? So as I said, this SWIFT user group is LKB. Sending participants must include 3 character service identifier code in outgoing SWIFT. So there's a place in the SWIFT message. Now the SWIFT actually, if I'm not too sure whether Mr. Ratnayake has explained this, but he is the expert here to explain about the SWIFT. If you want to get to know about SWIFT, he's the number one, I think, in Sri Lanka to explain you that, right? So because he has been doing this for a long time, and in and out, and certain developments in SWIFT he was fully engaged in, and he was heading the unit. FinMyCopy service will then intercepted the message, right? So as I earlier explained, it will then intercepted the message, and Lanka Settle service identifier code is LKB. So this LKB will, the FinMyCopy will know that this is a LKB, right? This is a LKB message, right? So these are the commonly used message types. If I say now MT, MT stands for money transfer. MT102. Now this message, you can have multiple customers in this message. You can include multiple customers, right? So to the same institution, right? So say Bank of Ceylon wants to send a remittance fund transfer of 10 customers to commercial banks, then you can have all in this 102 message, right? Now 103 is a single customer credit transfer. That is now we commonly use 103s because customer transactions. Now customers will say we want to send these transactions to this particular institution, but only thing, sometimes customer will not provide funds on time, and sometimes there will be a delay in sending details. So what happens if we keep all these transactions to send in 103, so all the customers will get affected by that, so all will have to face the delay. So because of that, if we get 2-3 transactions to the same institutions at the same time, we use 102. Otherwise we use 103, single customer credit transfer. It's easier, right? MT202. Now between financial institutions, the transfers will happen by using this MT202. Now MT202 will not have beneficiary details and all these things, right? 103 will have additional fields than 202, but 202 directly going to one SWIFT to another SWIFT. No, so commercial bank will send to Sampath Bank, right? Okay, straight away the bank details are there on top, so no need of getting the beneficiary details. But in a case if we want, like if we miss the cutoff time of 103, now central bank has cutoff times for all these transactions. Although they have both systems open till 4:30, right? There are cutoff times for transactions. The system will accept sometimes, but the institutions will not accept, right? So what happens if we miss 103? 103 cutoff time is 2 o'clock actually. 2 o'clock, and then otherwise, now these cutoff times can, now these days, of course, these cutoff times, like that. I don't have to tell you, right? We had to postpone classes also due to this cutoff time, advancement of cutoff times, right? So that is understood. But if we miss, right? Just give me a second. Hello. Yeah. Yes. 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 Right. Correct. Yeah. Right. Right. Sorry for the interruption. So if we miss 103, say suppose if we miss a customer transaction, and after the cutoff they won't accept, I mean the system will reject 103s, right? Earlier it was 2 o'clock the cutoff time of central bank, but system was open till 3 o'clock to accept the MT 103. So we had that 1 hour to send this, but now I think the system doesn't accept, so they have adjusted the times. But time to time these can change due to various reasons. So if we miss one, then we will be using 202 message, right? So 202 message we will be using to do the fund transfer, but only thing we won't be able to have the beneficiary details in that. No, there are no fields. So but in 202 there's a special field down, I remember it's 72A, I think. So there you can put the customer, it's a free format field, right? So there we just say like, okay, this is the customer name, this is the customer account number, and all these details will be filled in there. So then so 202 also can be used in a case like that, right? So
Mangala, MT stands for message type.
Yeah. Sorry?
MT stands for message type.
Message type, yes. Sorry, yes. Message type. Yeah. MT103 is message type 103, not money transfer. My message type 103 and message type 202. Message type 103, 202, like that, right? Thanks for the correction, Mr. Ratnayaga. So a bank A will generate a Swift message, right? A Swift message, and this is the term for the Swift, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. And this I discussed earlier, MT103 or MT202. MT103 for the customer fund transfer, MT202 for financial institution fund transfer, right? So system identifies the recipient institution by the receiver bit code. Now these are a bit technical, but we will just go through this bit fast and then try to go into the relevant area. But this will complete the presentation. Then later on, even if you want to, know something, you can go through the presentation and see the slides and see what it is. So Swift code of our bank is Ceylon Bank is CYB LK LX XXXX is to fill the spaces, right? So even if you don't put this all X's there, the Swift code with one LX, it will accept. So that is enough for that. But we, as a matter of it's actually a rather practice. We used to fill that with excess. The Y copy of FIN-Y copy of the message go to RTGS system at CB. So we actually discussed this point earlier. FIN-Y copy system. Now I think there's another one. There can be so many other ones, but I can remember another one comparative to FIN-Y copy. There was FIN-T copy. So FIN-T copy we don't use it, but in Swift I think there's a type called FIN-T copy. So T copy is actually the message goes to the recipient bank and simultaneously go to the central authority. So we don't use it, because then I think Mr. Ratnayaga, if I am not wrong, in FIN-T copy, the even if the funds are not available, the other bank can see it. No.
Yes, that's right. But we don't use that in Sri Lanka. Yes.
Yeah, we don't use it in Sri Lanka, but but in T copy, other banks can see that a message is coming, and they will get to know that the other person is not having money. So that is a different, another type of
That is only if the central authority notifies that there is inadequate funds. But
yes.
But still, as you said, the message can be seen by the bank before being debited to the account. Yes.
That's the thing. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ratnayaga. So if the paying and sending institution has funds, the RTGS will get settled, and the payer's account will be debited and the receiver's account will be credited real time. The message will be sent to the receiver. All these were there in that diagram. The receiver and the sender both can check their accounts from the browser online, right? Browser online. So it's we have now when we say browser, there can be so many browsers now, right? Earlier we had only one. Now we have about say 5-6 browsers in same institution. There can be more also depending on the requirement, right? It's a matter of you connecting another computer and get a password and a user ID and password from the system, the browser. A computer connected to the CBSL RTGS system through a dedicated line to view the user's own account. This I explained. Ceylon Bank can view only Ceylon Bank account. All RTGS and SSS participants are given with one or more browsers, right? At least one should be there, no? Yeah. So usernames and passwords are given to staff who are authorized to view CBSL account and other browser functions. Now, other than this viewing of account, there are other functions as well that you can do through the browser. We will, I will go through them when I do this Scriptless Settlement Securities, Scriptless Security Settlement System, SSSS, Scriptless Security Settlement System. Why do we call it scriptless? Because now we don't have them in paper format, right? So now this is, this is, I have just put without, disclosing the counterparty debit party. I have just put a screen of browser, right? So this is how you see it. Settled credits are there, right? Settled credits are there, and you get the debit party, you get the credit party. Now, since this is Ceylon Bank browser, Ceylon Bank BIC is appearing, and these are the transactions, right? So these are the transactions which has taken place, right? So now this is movements that is for the security movements. So same thing, all these details can be viewed through the browser. So browser is really really a turning point, in the sense that this introduction of these systems are a real turning point in Sri Lankan payment and settlement systems. So we'll go to the next one. So same day value transactions. So participants should ensure the settlement within 2 hours, we will say, but this 2 hours is the maximum, but it is now there are rules inside the different banks to maybe within, they say maybe within half an hour you have to settle, right? But earlier instructions were something like this, so that's why I have put 2 hours. Forward value transactions, settlement by 10 a.m. on the value date. There you can do forward value transactions in the RTGS system, but they will get settled by 10 a.m. on the value date, right? So they have runs in the central bank to do all these settlements for the forward ones, but same day value ones, then and there those will get settled. Now when I say participants should ensure the settlement within 2 hours, means when you receive money, right? When you receive money, that you have to give to your customer without delay, right? And now actually this 2 hours has been reduced to maybe half an hour, 1 hour or so. This is just for an example I just put. So when you receive money, you have to settle it as soon as possible, right? So you can't keep them till evening to settle to the customer. So through the RTGS system, you can get intraday facilities, liquidity facility. These are actually the facilities the participants will get from the central bank by it's not like repo, but then more or less that you need to assign few securities to central bank and get intraday liquidity, that is to carry out your transactions during the day. You can get some money if you really want, right? So first of all, you have to enter into ILF agreement with central bank. Then securities will be transferred to ILF, and then you get the ILF money credited to your account on the value date. So usually you do it on the same day, or you can do it on the previous day, right? If a bank thinks, or an institution, or if a bank thinks that they will get a huge payment in the morning, they have to arrange this, because otherwise what will happen? What will happen is entire system will get gridlocked. This is a separate area. Now you get check clearing in the morning, right? So the check clearing will get gridlocked if you don't have money in the account. Check clearing is a multilateral net settlement system, not gross. So it will settle for the net amount. So when you settle for the net amount, all the participants will get settled together, right? So ILF is a very important aspect in that sense. If you don't have money in your central bank account, right? So this is a separate, separate area. So now I have gone through the process, benefits, and the prior systems of RTGS, right? So RTGS is they say it's a national payment system like that. So many definitions are there. So if you need any clarification on anything which I talked up to now, you can ask, because now Lanka Secure System, I'm trying to explain you how these scriptless securities get settled through this system, and how do we do it. Actually same method Swift we use, but if you have any issue with regard to RTGS, just ask me, then we can discuss, and also we can move on to the next area. So we will move on to Lanka Secure System. Lanka Secure System consists of Central Depository for Government Securities and the Scriptless Security Settlement System. So actually they go in hand, this Central Depository for Government Securities and the Scriptless Security Settlement System, because we access the Central Depository system through the Scriptless Security Settlement System. So those are
Mangala, just query, please.
Yes.
Earlier slide, ILF.
Yes.
Intraday liquidity facility. If the in the morning Lanka Clear amount debited, multilateral debit,
Yeah.
if there's insufficient fund, can we explain how the system is facilitated to function through ILF? Because
yes.
Clearing from
I'll explain.
Clearing figures for all the banks will be gridlocked.
Yes. Clearing figures of all the banks will be gridlocked because it's a multilateral net settlement or MLNS system. So what happens is, so it will net the figures. The system will net the figures of all the banks. So there can be a plus or minus to your bank. Likewise, all these banks in our system now, their checks will come in the morning, and then usually banks have their the reserve, right? So they maintain the reserve, no? So these will go out of the reserve, and then during the day they will fund them up to the required level of reserve. That is what we do, no? So pluses, minuses we take into account, and then at the end of the day we keep maybe a little more than the reserve we required. So what happens is if this if the MLNS when they run the process, say if one bank doesn't have money for the debit which has to go through this system, if they don't have money to meet the required the debit, right? So because that day how it, okay, I will explain how it can be a debit. So say suppose you have collected checks worth 5 billion, right? You have collected checks worth 5 billion, and you have your checks were collected by other banks worth 10 billion. So you will be getting 5 billion, but you have to pay 10 billion, right? So you are short 5 billion. In the sense, your account not really short, your account will get debited 5 billion. So to get this 5 billion debited to your account, you should have 5 billion in the account. Now this happens in the case of small banks, because if they are deposit liability. Now, you know, the reserve requirement of a bank is based on the deposit liability. No, now we have what is deposit liability? Now we have to keep a percentage of the deposits you held, right? So this
as a reserve requirement.
As the reserve requirement. So small banks have small reserves. So if their MLNS debit in the morning is higher than that, then this happens when they, when other banks collect more checks of them, right? So the value in value wise, right? So then for that day you are having, we call it that you are having a, against balance, right? Favorable balance and against balance. Against balance means this amount will get debited to your account, right? So for this amount to get debited, you should have sufficient money in the account, right? So usually the banks have their reserve money in the account, right? So if this amount is much higher than, or rather higher than this reserve money amount, then you will be in short of funds, right? You will be in short of funds.
Then the debit cannot get processed.
Cannot get processed because there can be so many contributory banks to this credit and also so many contributory banks to this debit. So that is how you get this debit balance. So it is netted, right? It is netted, and then that is how you get this debit balance. So many other people are there, waiting to get your credit or to debit you. So something like that. So the system, when they run the system, if one bank doesn't have money, the entire thing will get gridlocked, and then they will have a fine on this, because the entire system will get entire operation will get delayed. I think the first one is a warning letter, the next one is 100,000, and the third one is 200, and thereafter 500,000, if I can remember. So likewise there is a fine for that, right? I'm not too sure whether they have revised this recently. If they have had revised, then it will be a much higher amount, right? So earlier it was like that. So what happens is, so then you have to see this situation, and quickly before the cutoff time, right, before 8:30 you have to provide money, right? You have to do it before 8:30, right? So what banks says, banks inform if they are clearing balances, the previous day balances, they don't know what they have collected, but they don't know what they are going to receive. But early in the morning they can get to know, because this Lanka Clear processes this early in the morning, no? So then they will get to know. So they have, most of the banks, they have shift basis staff for this activity, right? So then they will get to know. They will send a mail to the dealers. These are our clearing figures for today. So then early morning they have to, before 8:30 they have to get an ILF, right, from the central bank. Now in the morning ILF, actually it's you have to inform the central bank that you need an ILF. But if you think that you are getting you need, if you think the previous day that you will be needing money tomorrow, then you can transfer securities to ILF account. Then central bank will automatically grant you a ILF in the morning, right? So then you don't have to worry in the morning. So if you are going against if you are having an unfavorable clearing balance these days, so they can have everyday ILF, no issue. So during the day they can fund the account. Then there's a ILF reversal time, ILF reversal time. So at that time the ILF will be taken out by the central bank, right? So now this process is very smooth now, actually, not like those days. Now it's very smooth. They have times given when they will debit the ILF, and then how this will operate. So the main thing is you need to make sure that you have funds in the reserve account to debit. So that is how it operates. Otherwise, the entire system will get gridlocked and none of the things will get processed.
And because this is an intraday facility, there is no interest
Yeah.
charge. There's no
There's no interest charge. Yeah, there's no interest charge. It's a facility actually given to the participants.
Actually, for treasury operations, Mangala, now a bank could arrange a ILF facility prior and keep it in force
Yes.
after transferring some
Yes.
securities to the central bank. And then, as you said early morning, when you know that your debit figure for clearing is large, then you can request that just a matter of requesting. Otherwise, transfer of security and a lot of procedural aspect has to take place.
Yeah. Lot of procedural aspects, things has to take place. Has to take place early in the morning. Like then you will not be having, much time to do that. And say suppose if you have a network issue or something like that, then you can't do anything. No. So it's a risk if you keep it for the next day. If you think and if you have experienced large debits, now large debits larger than your reserve money, then you have to do it. You have to do it on the previous day. You can have, as you said, you can have some securities parked in ILF and request the central bank early in the morning if you need. But doing it early in the morning, everything would not be, advisable, because then the gridlock situation will happen and you will get warning letters and fines will be imposed on you. I think that is clear, no?
If it is very frequently,
Sorry?
That bank will get penalized as well. If this is if this happens frequently, then that particular bank will get license reviewed.
Yeah, license reviewed, and they will, bank supervision will come and see what is wrong with the bank, because why they are not making funds available in the reserve account. They will think that you have some sort of liquidity issue, right? So, no one would like to get into that type of a situation, right? No one would like to get into that type of situation. That type of a situation can happen if you are negligent, even like, you have enough resources, but if you are negligent, then that can happen. So it's better you review your positions and, keep the required balances in ILF account. I mean, the securities, you can transfer the securities to ILF and, keep there, So then at request, the central bank will give you the ILF amount in the morning.
Actually, the central bank has been really generous in giving
we can
intraday
move on
funds.
to this, but since we have reached our...
We can cover the...
now it's 5 o'clock, no?
Tomorrow.
I will just, go through this definition and... finish it off for today. The Lanka Secure system consists of central depository for government securities and... Sorry?
Magala, we can cover this tomorrow.
I didn't hear you, Mr. Ratnayaka. Central bank?
No, central bank have been really generous in the free funds ILF facility for, although it is intraday.
Your line is a bit, it is actually, it has a disturbance, no?
Sorry. Central bank have been generous in central bank is generous in giving intraday funds free, whereas
you can hear me, no?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Can you all hear me as well?
Yes, sir, we can hear you as well.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So what I was saying is that the central bank have been generous in giving intraday ILF facility free without interest cost, whereas some other countries charge for
yes, correct.
lending for the day.
Yeah, even for the days, some countries charge no. So not now even for the customers, some banks for intraday they charge because
Yeah.
now although it's intraday, there's opportunity cost no. There's opportunity
Yeah.
cost. So for that, actually, really speaking, the central bank is so generous in giving this. So that is the situation. So we will wind up for today, no, Mr. Ratnayaka?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
You
we'll
can
wind up
start
for
with SSS tomorrow.
yeah, yeah, SSS system. We will. It's again a bit technical, but a long discussion. So we will start on next Tuesday, right?
Next Tuesday, 6th, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, 6th. So we will start SSS system on next Tuesday. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you, Mangala. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Is Mr. Aluhare online? Lakshan Aluhare? Is he logged in?
Can't see him here. No, he's not there.
Anybody working with Lakshan Aluhare, please ask him whether he had sent the assignment number 2, please. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. I'll leave the meeting. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Ratnayaka.